Speed, style, and size. That's what everybody's talking about with the new Arrma Infraction. I mean, take a look at this truck. Isn't this absolutely insane? Arrma keeps knocking it out of the park with their releases, and this one is just unbelievable. I mean, just starting off with the looks of it, the capability of it, the design of what's under the hood. It's all together just an incredible RC truck that's going to deliver a lot of awesome experiences. Now, I know a lot of you have been waiting for me to review this. I've gotten your messages, and I am sorry for the delay on it, but we're going to get into it. It's been eating away at me that I haven't driven this thing yet, so let's start off by talking about the details of the truck, and there's a lot to go over. Now, the body. The body is just incredible. It's kind of this resto mod that we've seen before, like with the Notorious and Arrma's other vehicles, and they've kind of extended it here and enlarged it. This is a 7th scale size truck, so it's much larger than the standard A scale platforms that Arrma has been delivering lately. And so, you know, of course, this truck body has just been extended out back basically, and it's got Arrma's really cool paint scheme on it. And if you've seen our other Arrma videos, you know, I really like the way their style direction is going with everything, and this kind of bronze and copper camo type of scheme going on here really sets off the look of the body and the details on it. I mean, we've got door panels, we've got this awesome aggressive front grille, the splitter above the plastic splitter that I'll get to in a little bit, and you know, this spoiler out back. But let me start off with the front. We got this aggressive front end on here, should give a lot of downforce to it. We've got the hood pin holders, the little rubber tethers that I love on other Arrma vehicles. No clear windows, but that's totally cool because, you know what, we're just going for speeds on this thing. We're not going for scale looks on it, but Arrma did go and detail the windows a little bit more, so they look pretty cool. Up top here, we've got these roof skids, and I imagine that these are going to come in really handy and not mar up the body too much. These will take all the abuse. And I gotta imagine people are going to be flipping this thing over, you know, when they're pulling high-speed runs and maybe, you know, turning a little bit too fast. But that's awesome to see on here. There's even a little lip on the rear of the roof here to add a little bit more downforce right here. Then we've got this rear roll bar structure out back that kind of integrates into the skid pads up top here. So again, there's bracing up top if you flip it over. And then now out back to the wing. This is a tunable wing, actually. So we've got our downforce, and then they've got these lines on the back of the wing that, you know, basically tell you where to trim it. If you want to go and change the performance of it, you go and cut on the lines here, and you could drop down, you know, you could just drop down the back, you could drop down the sides for cornering, or drop down the back if you want to add a little bit more speed to it. So that is really cool that even the wing on this thing is tunable. We've got the tethers out back, and then we've got a rear diffuser, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But again, body is very awesome on this thing. Love the look of it, Arrma, all the way down to the decals on it. Now, let's get inside this thing because there's so much for me to talk about in here that you guys need to know about before you pick one of these things up, just to make sure it's the right vehicle for you. All right, let me set this down over here, get it in the video. There we go. All right, now all of you regular subscribers know what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna go break this thing down from the front, work my way back, and we'll start off by talking about this big front diffuser on here. Check out this big piece of plastic. It integrates into the front bumper. Then we've got a foam bumper up front. And I have to imagine some people are gonna use this because, you know, when you're driving fast, things happen, and you know, sometimes you got to veer off, and you know, the curbs are there. I've hit plenty of curbs in my days of testing, and this looks like the bumper looks like it's got to take some impact. Hopefully the splitter holds up too in some crashes, but it's got a very large honeycomb reinforced bumper underneath this foam pad here. So again, that should really hopefully protect everything up front. Adjustable body mounts. So not only can you adjust it height-wise, but you can adjust it in and out on the mounts here. Same front and rear, I'll just mention that. And then they've got these little pads that help support the body, which is always very cool. Less chatter is always better. All right, now right behind there's this basically a bracket that helps support everything in the front, and we'll get into the front suspension now. Okay, so as you look at this, you'll probably notice some Arrma Typhon components used in here, and the Typhon is a proven vehicle, and obviously those components are going to work well here too. So the front bulkhead gear case is from the Typhon, and then the differential inside is also from the Typhon, and steel ring gear on there, steel internal gears, steel out drives on there, and of course it's fluid filled. Now these are easy to access. That's a thing from Arrma. You know, they want to make sure that the vehicles that they produce are easy to maintain, and just like the other Arrma vehicles, you can get to the diffs rather easily in this, you know, front, center, rear, and It's nice that they carried that design over. All right, let me move on to the shock tower. So obviously we've got a low 5mm thick aluminum shock tower on the front to support these short on-road style shocks, and they're much like Arrma's larger shocks, just a shorter length, obviously, because for road use. And they do have a composite shock cap on there with a bleeder screw, thick shock shafts, aluminum body on there, and it's just got a great feel to it for an on-road car. Nice and stiff, and definitely feels like a heavyweight oil in there to help keep this car planted on the road. The suspension arms, again, we've seen these on the Arrma Typhon, really well braced arms, and goes out to a pivot ball style suspension setup where you've got basically the steering knuckle on the ends rather than the C-hub and steering knuckle type setup. These are proven also, these work really well in on-road situations, so it should work well here. What's nice is they do have an aluminum steering arm bolted to the steering knuckle, and I see that they did make a change. They have an O-ring now on the pillow ball retainer nut, which is really nice because sometimes that screw, it's like a large screw basically, aluminum screw, it sometimes backs out on some vehicles, but with that O-ring in there, that will help bite into the thread so that won't back out while you're driving. And again, if you're driving this thing at high speeds and the thing backs out and it will lock up a wheel, could cause handling problems. And so basically Arrma eliminated that by putting that O-ring on there. So that's great to see. You can go and adjust caster, camber on this as well. The hinge pins are supported by really thick aluminum plate up front, and it is composite in the rear, but the front is really where it takes the impacts. Okay, and finally I'll just mention that it has sway bars. Sway bars front and rear. You need to have sway bars on an on-road car because of high speeds, through cornering. It just helps keep that chassis level. All right, now let's move on to the steering on here, and that's just lifted from the Arrma Typhon. Twin crank steering with an aluminum bar between the two, and then of course adjustable steering, tie rods out to the steering knuckles. So you can go to adjust toe if you want to there as well. Now, up top, check this out. Check out this heavy-duty aluminum chassis stiffener here. That is very cool to see. Let's get into the chassis details. So that's going to help brace the chassis from flex front to rear, and we still have the center braces as well. The one from the aluminum upper top plate down to the chassis, and then from the rear bulkhead down to the chassis. And then of course you got your center diff as well, where everything just kind of ties together and all works together to keep this platform really, really solid. So I like that. Now I'm going to flip this thing over because you guys need to see the chassis on this. Take a look at this chassis on this vehicle. This is a aluminum chassis, 3mm thick, and look how it's shaped. So it's stamped, so it has an air channel to flow air through the back to the diffuser on this. Really neat setup, and they still kept the components as low as possible to still be effective in as far as handling goes. Keep this thing planted to the ground. Definitely like that. It has these little basically side plates on here that go over to the enlarged battery trays on this, so you could really put a number of different batteries in here, different size batteries I should say. It's a very large battery tray setup on both sides. This thing runs on 6S, so you can put some high milliamp packs in here and extend your runs if you want to. I will say you should always keep an eye on your temperatures if you do choose to do that, because things can heat up and you don't want to go out for some long runs for fun and wind up burning up your electronics package in here. But the electronics package in this is pretty solid. I'll get to that in a second. Also integrated into the side plate here is the front receiver box, which is secured down, and of course it is sealed, so it's protecting the receiver from the elements. And then even the speed controller has a plate to mount to. No more two-sided tape or tie wraps. Now it's all about bolting your speed controller down, and Arrma did that there as well. So lots of great stuff going on in the center of this vehicle. And now it's time to talk about the electronics in here. And let's start off with the steering servo. So we've got the high torque metal geared steering servo, and like Arrma's other vehicles, we have an aluminum horn on here with a short drag link over to the servo saver bell crank system. Over here we've got a 2050 kV motor. It's a sensorless brushless motor, definitely going to give this a lot of power. And then over here is Arrma's 150 amp electronic speed controller, and the speed controller is actually fitted with IC5 connectors, so just be aware of that when you're going out to pick up batteries for this thing. I'm actually going to use it on EC3 or EC5 connectors because that's what style batteries I have. But they also give you a jumper plug in case you're running a single pack through here. And if you've got 2 packs in here, you can go pull that plug out and use the 2 connectors. So pretty cool electronics package in here. And this could basically, this electronics package with the right batteries and the right pinion gear, which Arrma does give you a high-speed pinion gear, could get you up to 80 miles an hour with this thing, which is pretty insane. I can't imagine driving it. I'm going to try it. We'll see how fast it goes. But back to, let's go on to the drivetrain now. So I kind of told you up front, it's got the front differential, oil-filled metal gears, and same with the center here. So the center differential has a metal spur gear instead of a ring gear. Same lightweight steel out drives on here. Dog bones, front and center. Oh, I forgot to tell you about the universal axles. So we've got CV-style axles up front. I'll get to the rear in a minute, but in the center is dog bones. And that obviously transfers power from the center differential up front and, of course, to the rear. Now, let's get to the rear of the vehicle. This thing's kind of heavy, to be honest with you. So the rear, again, kind of set up the same as the Typhon S as far as the suspension goes. We've got a lower H-arm. We've got solid composite rear hubs on there, which in my experience have worked out really well. The shock tower is, of course, a shorter shock tower to go along with the short shocks on here. And again, we've got really firm spring on there, aluminum bodies, pretty much the same as we saw up front. Even has shock cap protectors on here for, for this truck that is fully enclosed. They put shock cap protectors on there. That's fine by me. The more is better, right, guys? So upper camber links, again, the sway bar is out back. And now we get to this rear diffuser out here. And this thing looks rad, doesn't it? I mean, with the way it looks with the body on, just looks really awesome. And you can actually go and tune the inserts in the diffuser to adjust airflow through there. And the other thing you could do, you could actually put long titanium screws through the diffuser, and that will, cause sparks as the chassis bottoms out, which is a pretty neat function. I mean, again, Arrma's really just delivering an RC experience here. Speed, style, and even sparks. That's just very cool to come from, one company out of one kit. All right, there are droop screws in the arms. The rear actually has plastic suspension pivots on here. I didn't notice that before. I saw the big aluminum one up front, got all excited. Probably would have liked to have seen aluminum in the rear here, but just don't smack anything with the rear of this vehicle and you should be good to go here. There's actually a little protector out back here that covers the rear drive shaft assembly. I'm guessing that's in case maybe a wire gets over there. But again, in the rear, there is another gear differential, oil filled, and metal gears, of course, throughout. And this just looks like an incredible chassis overall. It's actually all road use, I guess, is kind of the way they're spinning it, where you can go and blast through flat dirt. If you got some dirt and sand on the side of the road, you could go blast through that. Pretty cool what you could do with this vehicle beyond just speed runs. Now it's time to talk about the tires. These are the D-Boots Hoon tires. They've got a 5-spoke rim. It is a belted tire, so it's not going to expand as you're ramping up for your speed runs. And I know that with an expanding tire, you could get a little bit more speed out of it, but with a car like this, a heavyweight car, you want that controllability. You want to be able to drive this thing, and with these tires, you should. They offer a lot of grip, and you could actually smoke the tires. Yeah, I'm sure you've kind of seen some stuff out there already, which is pretty awesome. However, just be aware, because of the compound on here, that will start to wear and you could go through tires rather quickly. So it's up to you. You want to blow through tires, go ahead and smoke them. But if you just want to have a lot of fun with this thing, just keep driving it, guys. Just keep driving it. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, now this is, assembled from the factory. So, of course, it's got the electronics in here and it comes with the radio system. It's got the DX2E radio, which is one of Spectrum's entry-level radios. What's very cool about this is you can go and expand it with a telemetry module or speed display on here, which is very cool. The only thing I don't like about this transmitter, if you're a frequent viewer of the channel, is the plastic steering wheel on here. Other than that, it's a great radio system. And I think with a car like this, you're going to be gripping into this thing and you're going to want a foam steering wheel. So, the plastic works just fine. It's kind of a little joke. I kind of mock that a little bit every time I get one of those radios, but it is a good radio system and I do use it a lot. All right, now the Infraction bag of stuff. And in here, of course, is all the instruction manual. I got to show you guys all of this so you know what you get with this kit. There we go. So we've got some more Arrma decals. You go throw some more decals on there and make it look cool. Here is your max performance instruction sheet. Go through that. And of course, the regular manual that you should go through and some warranty information, of course. Now onto the little bag of tools. This is something that always comes in handy if you're out, messing around. You don't want to bring all your tools with you. You bring this little bag, and if you've got your standard issue Allen wrenches in there, your box wrench, and your large wheel wrench in there. Actually, I can't tell you how many times I've reached into one of those bags to use the wheel wrench on it. It does come in handy. Then in this little bag here, we've got the additional splitters and some body mounts that could come in handy. If you go and actually change the body later on down the road. I don't know if there's anything else out there that fits easily yet, but who knows? Maybe there will be. And also in here, we've got the bind plug and then the high-speed pinion gear. Look at that. It's almost the size of a spur gear. That thing is huge. Only use this for high-speed runs. If you're just doing some average driving and stuff like that, keep that regular pinion gear in there. So again, you don't overheat your electronic system. All right. This thing is awesome. I gotta find some cool spots to run this thing, maybe do some speed runs, definitely rip around some parking lots and stuff. Let's go see what the Arrma Infraction can do. All right, the Arrma Infraction may be one of the most insane RC vehicles I've ever driven in my entire RC career, and that spans over 30 years. This truck is just a wild beast. And you know what? It's actually controllable too. This thing by far exceeded my expectations. I thought it was going to be another on-road car that you just kind of had to fight to keep straight in line and everything. But this truck is very drivable and it is extremely fast. Even with the stock pinion gear, I did the speed run as well, which was just awesome by itself. But for a ready to run right out of the box, I mean, this is just pure insanity. Yes, there's guys that are building crazy speed machines, and I think that's kind of how this thing evolved here, but this is right out of the box, and it's just a pure beast on multiple levels. All right, let me tell you about my driving experience. I went all over the place to drive this because I just got hooked on it, and I wanted to try it in all different areas for on-road type of use. So the first thing I did was I went over to a big empty parking lot, and that's where I just started roasting tires, and this thing is just awesome. I mean, the tires on this thing, I might as well get right into the tires because I do need to talk to you guys about these things. They are a belted tire. They feel like a very solid compound when they're sitting here on the bench, but once they get some heat into them, they really start to, hook up, and this thing is very drivable, even at higher speeds. If you have a large enough parking lot, I mean, you could just really rip around, turn really well with this truck, at higher speeds, again, in a big area, if you're doing some tight turns, of course, you got to back down on the throttle, but even when you back down on the throttle, you can turn very tight around corners with this. It is really awesome. It is amazing how capable it is throughout the entire power band. And sometimes you're even able to pull out of a slide by just punching the throttle, and it just seems to hook up and go where you want it to. I was just really impressed with the drivability overall. I mean, it does have the AVC in there, and that does help you gather things up. And for a big vehicle like this, yeah, I think that assist really comes in handy. AVC is up in the air with some people. They feel you should be able to drive the car. But when it comes and helps you, just maintain control of a large machine such as this, a machine that's capable of doing 80 miles an hour, I mean, AVC all the way. I think it's a great addition to this. But back to the handling, it just handled really, really well. And it was, untreated parking lots, just a standard parking lot. It wasn't like a racetrack or anything like that. I was able to really just drive this car the way I wanted to and just have a lot of fun with it. Now, the other part of the tires that is super awesome is smoking the tires. Yeah, you could actually start blazing smoke off of the tires. Now, it's not really recommended that you do so. Yeah, I mean, it's fun to do it, but, kind of limit yourself because it does eat away at the tires. The tires are really going to be the big factor in this thing. For people that are driving it, you can go and chew up a set of tires rather quickly if you're going to drive this thing hard. But I guess that's kind of the price to pay if you want an awesome machine that is capable of doing so much at such a high power. After my first run, I pulled the body off and the inside was just littered in tire dust. So it does chew up tires. Be aware of that when you're driving. You may have to back off if you can't afford another set of tires till maybe at the end of the month. So definitely watch your tire wear on this. Now, I did go and take it out for a speed run. This thing is a beast. I went and put the optional pinion gear on that is included with the kit, and it just tears down the straightaway. I went to the street where I do a lot of my speed testing. Luckily, it was blocked off for construction, so I had the street almost all to myself. But I was able to get it up to about 72 miles an hour. The first run I did with it, the speedometer, I forgot to hit the record button. So I think it went a bit faster on my first run, and then on my second run I did 72, and then I did some slower speed passes after that. But I think it is capable of doing 80. I wasn't able to do it within the area that was available to me, but I think it has it in there. I mean, Arrma advertises it as an 80 mile an hour truck, so I gotta believe that they did their homework and this thing does so in order for them to put that on the box. So yeah, it is definitely capable of doing that. And then, you know what, I just went wild with this thing. I took it over to a turf field and just started kind of doing power slides around the turf field. That was an absolute blast. And then finally I took it to a dirt parking lot because I saw Arrma, running this thing through dirt in their promotion. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go over to a dirt parking lot and just kind of rip some donuts and stuff, and that's what I did. This thing was just spitting rocks out everywhere, and it was kind of just power slide. I mean, it's got slick tires on there, but it was actually a lot of fun in dirt. I'm not sure if I'm going to recommend that you do that because the inside of this thing was full of rocks, and I could even hear some rocks getting into the pinion and spur gear on this. So, you know, I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's good in the long run to do that to the truck. But, you know, it was capable of just ripping through dirt and having so much fun. I mean, I can't tell you how big of a smile I had on my face. And then, you know what? I found a big puddle there, and I just blasted through there as well. No problems with the electronics, no problems with the waterproofing on it. You know, it just took it. I mean, I picked this thing up and water was pouring out of it. And it was stuffed with rocks as well. When I was doing the speed runs, I accidentally ran off of the road. And, you know, this thing was just covered in leaves and dirt and stuff like that. I had to clean it out. But nothing's really wrong with it. The only thing I did to this to harm it during the entire test session, and I put it through a lot, was I hit a cement wall with it. And it was a total brain fart on my end. I meant to hit reverse, and I hit forward, and I went right into a wall, and it ripped the front splitter off. Now, I don't have it on right now because I took it off to go run it on the dirt, but I was able to just find some longer screws, and I put the splitter back on. All it did was pull the screws out, so that was an easy fix. But I think this thing is just outstanding. Arrma did another amazing job on creating a absolutely fun vehicle, and you know, they should really be given props for making it so drivable as well. If you're just looking for that next level beast of a machine, the Arrma Infraction's really the way to go. Wait, hold on. We're not done just yet. There's something I forgot to tell you guys about in the wrap-up portion of the video, and that is I actually had the truck cut out on me a couple of times. I know there's been a couple reports out there of thermal shutdowns, and yes, I did experience that as well. So I started talking with Arrma about the situation, trying to figure out what's going on here, and we determined that, yes, it's a thermal shutdown. I was getting a green blinking LED light. Now, the manual actually says there is a red LED light for thermal shutdowns, and I found that that is a incorrect statement in the manual that Arrma is going to fix, like, basically right now. So what to do about a thermal shutdown? Well, basically, I was hammering on this truck for the testing. I wanted to show you guys what this thing would do. The temperatures outside were also about 85 degrees on one day, 90 degrees on another day. So out there on the asphalt, it's even hotter. So you can imagine, you know, what this thing is going through, even, you know, when I'm hammering on it. So basically, you know, if you're going to run this on a hot day, kind of, you know, throttle back a little bit, guys. Give this truck some time to breathe. You know, if you have to hammer on it, maybe cut some air holes to get some cooling in there. Maybe add additional fans, a fan to the motor. That will help reduce motor temps, which basically will lessen the draw from the speed controller, so that won't get overtaxed as much. But basically, you know, if you're going to go all out on this thing, that potential is there. But I really think this truck is worth, you know, working through that little, you know, situation. Just, you know, getting to know your car, how you could drive it, and maybe you want to experience it after that, or you can make those fixes as I just suggested. But overall, the Arrma Infraction is completely awesome. I am going to keep driving this thing, even though I just roasted the tires on there. I need some new tires already, but just the action that this thing delivers is incredible. Thanks again for checking out the review, guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and we'll see you back here real soon.